When we talk about pregnancy, we often count it in weeks, right? But what we're really talking about is this incredible 40-week marathon of biological engineering. Seriously, it's this highly structured journey, a developmental cascade that takes a single cell and turns it into a human being. Okay, let's dive into this and see exactly how it all unfolds, step by step. So here's how we're going to break it all down. We're going to follow the whole timeline, starting with the monthly countdown that kind of sets the stage for life. Then we'll watch the amazing transformation from cells into an embryo, see how the blueprint gets laid down in the first trimester, hit a major growth spurt in the second, and then cover that final stretch to delivery. And yeah, we'll even take a look at some of the common hurdles along the way. Okay, so before anything else can even begin, you have to understand that the body is already running the super sophisticated hormonal program every single month. This isn't random at all. It's this meticulously timed process designed to prepare the absolute perfect environment for a potential pregnancy. Now, what's really fascinating here is how this is a perfect chain reaction. It all kicks off in the brain. The hypothalamus sends out a hormone called GnRH. That's the signal to the pituitary gland to release FSH, or follicle-stimulating hormone, which basically tells the ovaries, hey, get an egg ready. As that follicle matures, it pumps out estrogen, and that estrogen surge tells the pituitary, okay, we are good to go, which then releases one final hormone, LH, or luteinizing hormone, and that is the final trigger that causes ovulation. Oh, and as a little aside, this is the exact cycle that hormonal birth control is designed to interrupt. It stops that final LH surge so ovulation just doesn't happen. All right, the stage is set, the egg is released, and now we get to the moment of creation itself. This is where the clock really starts ticking, and a series of rapid, absolutely mind-boggling changes begin. So let's talk about fertilization, or what you might call conception. This is it. This is the moment a single sperm unites with the egg. And it's not just a simple meeting of cells. It's the fusion of two completely different sets of genetic material to create a totally new and unique genetic blueprint. This one event is literally the starting line for everything that's about to happen. And check this out. This shows just how unbelievably fast everything moves. We start with the ovum, right? The single egg cell. Once it's fertilized, bam, it's a zygote. Then, through crazy fast cell division, it becomes this little cluster of cells that looks kind of like a mulberry, called a morula. Once it successfully implants in the uterine wall, it's officially an embryo. And then by the end of just 8 weeks, it graduates to being called a fetus. I mean, from one cell to a fetus in just 2 months, that transformation is just astonishing. Okay, so let's jump into the first trimester. This period, up to about 12 weeks, is honestly the most delicate and critical phase of the entire pregnancy. It's all about something called organogenesis, which, is just a fancy way of saying the creation of organs. And it's about laying the foundation for every single part of the body. I mean, the progress here is just staggering. Think about it. At only 4 weeks, the central nervous system is already taking shape as the spinal cord begins to fuse together. Then by 8 weeks, just 8 weeks, all the major organs are already formed. We're talking the heart, the brain, the lungs, all of it. And by 12 weeks, the heart is developed enough that its tiny little beat can actually be picked up by a Doppler. The construction is happening at an absolutely explosive pace. Just let that sink in for a second. At just 8 weeks after conception, the whole process of forming the organs is basically done. The blueprint is complete. And this marks a massive transition. The official title changes from embryo to fetus. And now the focus shifts from creation to growth and refinement. So what does this mean in the real world? Well, remember we talked about that spinal cord fusion happening at 4 weeks? This is exactly where folic acid comes in. Taking 400 micrograms daily, and ideally even before conception, is so critical to making sure that process happens correctly and preventing neural tube defects. It's such a small nutrient, but it has a massive impact on that foundational blueprint. Okay, so once we hit the second trimester, from about week 13 to 27, it's like we're entering a whole new phase. The most delicate construction work is over. Now it is all about a massive growth spurt. The fetus grows super fast, and its presence becomes a whole lot more obvious. And this trimester brings one of the biggest milestones for the mom, something called quickening. For her, this is often the first real, tangible confirmation of the life growing inside. It can start as early as 16 weeks, and people usually describe it as this tiny, unmistakable flutter. Beyond that powerful emotional connection, it's also an early sign for doctors that the fetus is healthy and active. Man, there is so much going on here. The fetus gets covered in this fine, downy air called lanago. A whitish, almost cheese-like substance called vernix caseosa coats the skin to protect it from the amniotic fluid. And speaking of that fluid, the fetus actually starts urinating, and that becomes a primary contributor to the fluid's volume. Oh, and this is also when the gender can usually be revealed on an ultrasound. But maybe the most critical point in the whole second trimester is hitting that 24-week mark. This is widely considered the age of viability. And why is that? Because the lungs start producing this crucial substance called surfactant, which is what prevents the tiny little air sacs from collapsing on themselves. It's the game changer that gives a premature baby a fighting chance to survive outside the womb. All right, we're heading into the third trimester now, the final stretch. From 28 weeks onward, it is all about final maturation, gaining weight, and getting everything ready for birth. This is the final leg of the marathon. So the three main goals here are pretty simple: bulking up, stocking up, and lining up. The fetus packs on weight, developing fat stores for warmth after birth. It's also stocking up on iron in its liver, building a supply that will last for the first 6 months of life. And finally, to get ready for birth, the fetus usually flips into a head-down position. That's a process called engagement. And all of this leads up to the main event, labor. Stage 1 is all about getting the cervix to dilate. It begins with the latent phase. You've got mild contractions as the cervix thins and opens up to about 3 centimeters. Then things ramp up in the active phase, with stronger, more regular contractions taking it all the way to 7 centimeters. And finally, there's the transitional phase. It's the most intense part, but it's also the shortest, and it gets the cervix to the full 10 centimeters needed for delivery. Now, of course, this whole 40-week marathon isn't always a perfectly smooth run. There can definitely be challenges, especially in that third trimester when the stakes are so high. So let's look at 2 significant issues that are related to the placenta. And what's really important to see here is the contrast between these 2 conditions. I mean, they both involve bleeding, but the symptoms are critically different. With placenta previa, the placenta has attached too low in the uterus, sometimes covering the cervix. This can cause bleeding, but it's typically bright red and, this is the key, painless. Abruptio placenta, on the other hand, is when a normally implanted placenta actually detaches from the wall prematurely. This is a true emergency, and it causes painful bleeding, which is often darker, kind of a brown color, because the blood can be trapped for a little while. Knowing these differences is absolutely vital for diagnosis. So, there you have it. We've gone all the way from a single hormonal signal to a fully formed human, ready to enter the outside world. This 40-week marathon of cellular engineering is, frankly, nothing short of miraculous. But it leaves us with one final, really fascinating question. After all of that incredible development, what is the single biggest physiological challenge a newborn faces in its very first moments of life?